Hello, lovely people. What is up? Today we are solving Leetcode problem number 6, zigzag conversion. Here we are given a string which is written in zigzag pattern on the number of rows given. So, for example, if let us take PayPal is hiring is the given string S, like in example 1, and the number of rows is 3. So we write PayPal in a zigzag manner like this. You can see like how it is going zigzag. And then we have to return row wise string. So PAHN APLS IIG, you get it, right? So this is how we have to return the answer. So how do we approach this question? So we are not building a zigzag grid because that is not optimal at all. So instead we figure out which character belongs to each row, collect them row by row, combine into final string. So first we should understand the zigzag movement. So let us take, instead of 3, the number of rows is 4 for PayPal is hiring. So how does it look? Row 0, 1, 2 and 3. So PAYPALISHIRING. So then we find the core pattern, that is the cycle. So take a closer look at the pattern, the movement. So down it goes from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3, and then up it just goes from row 2 to row 1. So the total steps will be down steps is equal to number of rows, and up steps will be number of rows minus 2, because the top and bottom row will not be considered when we are going up, because it will be considered when we are going down. So the total number of cycles will be number of rows plus number of rows minus 2. So together it will be 2 into number of rows minus 1. And then for example, let us take the number of rows is equal to 4. So cycle will be equal to 2 into 4 minus 1, which is 6. So while solving the question, what does cycle mean? It means in the example we took where the number of rows will be 4, every 6 characters the zigzag pattern repeats. So each block of 6 will be one zigzag wave like this. Now we build the result row wise. So row 0, that is the top row, will be 0, 6, 12 and so on. Why? Because it only appears once per cycle and it always starts at the top of each cycle. So it will be I plus equal to cycle, where I is the current index. And last row, that is the bottom row, also will be like 3, 9, 15, only one element per cycle. So the middle rows is the core part in this particular question. So let us take row 1. From the diagram we can see each cycle gives 2 elements, vertical downstroke, diagonal upstroke. So for each index I, we do add a vertical element, so S of I, and then we add a diagonal element, which will be diagonal index equal to I plus cycle minus 2 into R. Why cycle minus 2 into R? Because let us imagine the zigzag as a V. So for row R, the distance to go down plus up is equal to cycle. But diagonal happens before full cycle completes. So we subtract 2 into R, because row is already R steps down and R steps back up. So up and down, so 2R. So for row 1, where cycle is equal to 6, diagonal will be 6 minus 2 into 1, which is equal to 4. So next I is equal to 1, and next will be 5. I plus 4 is equal to 5, which matches the grid that we have drawn. Let us take another example. Row 2, diagonal will be 6 minus 2 into 2, which will be 2. So I is equal to 2 to next, which will be 4. Another important thing to note here is we only add diagonals when R is greater than 0 and R is smaller than number of rows minus 1. Since first row it has no diagonal and last row also has no diagonal. Now let us try and understand the code. So we define an if condition. Number of row is equal to 1. return s. This is an edge case, so if number of rows is equal to 1, there is no need to find the zigzag pattern, and we just return the input string. And then we initialize a variable to store an empty string, res equal to empty string. And then we define the formula for cycle equal to 2 into parentheses num rows minus 1. And then we are using a for loop to loop through each row for r in range of num rows. So each r is equal to one horizontal row in zigzag. And then in line 2, again, we define another for loop to define the key jump logic. For I in range of r, len of s, cycle. And then we add the current index character to result, res plus equal to s of I. In the for loop, we are using r because first element of each row appears at that index. And then we are using cycle to skip to the next zigzag column. And then we initialize an if statement to check whether the current index is first row, last row, because only middle rows follow this particular condition. So if r is greater than 0 and r is smaller than num rows minus 1. Why are we considering only middle rows here? Because the characters per zigzag in first and last will always be 1, whereas from the middle row it will be 2. And then to calculate the diagonal character index, we do j is equal to I plus cycle minus 2 into r. So in one zigzag cycle, we go down then up diagonally. That diagonal character comes before full cycle ends. So that is why we are doing 2 into r. And then we are doing a boundary check, because sometimes diagonal index goes out of range. So if j is smaller than len of s, we add the diagonal character like res plus equal to s of j. Then outside all the loops, we return res. So as you can see, the code is running without any errors. The time complexity for this particular code is O of n because each character